let's play a couple short clips from JD Vance. Here we go.
We have been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could, and they have chosen not to accept our terms.
So we got that. That doesn't sound great. Of course, he does let us know that this is worse for Iran than it is for the U.S. I've got one more clip here from JD Vance and then some stuff from Trump. Let me just get through some of these news items before we get further into the conversation.
Precisely what have they rejected here? Can you help us understand it a little bit?
Well, I won't go into all the details because I don't want to negotiate in public after we've negotiated for 21 hours in private. But the simple fact is that we need to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon and they will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve a nuclear weapon. That is the core goal of the President of the United States, and that's what we've tried to achieve through these negotiations. Again, their nuclear program, such as it is, the enrichment facilities that they had before, they've been destroyed. But the simple question is, do we see a fundamental commitment of will for the Iranians not to develop a nuclear weapon, not just now, not just 2 years from now, but for the long term? We haven't seen that yet. We hope that we will.
All right, there's a little bit more. Let's get into what Trump has been saying before I comment on all of this. This is Trump with Maria Bartiromo talking about these negotiations. Here we go.
For years, I've had to listen to them say, death to America, right? They say, death to America, death to Israel, America, the Satan, we will destroy America, death to America. Now, does anybody ever complain to you when they say that? I think that's a big step worse. Death to America. So they're allowed to say death to America. And what I'm referring to is, when I talk about civilization, it'll be much different because their military will be totally gone. It's pretty much gone now. But their military, look at their leadership. We have had regime change because the people we dealt with yesterday were, frankly, very smart, very sharp, very good, very good. I think they were smarter than the people from before, Khomeini and that group. Because look what it got them. Look what all of their antics was spending trillions of. They spent all their money on weapons. We've destroyed most of those weapons. Mm-hmm. But when I say about a civilization, it really has changed. It really has. But think of it. They're allowed to say death to America, death to this, death to. And I make one statement. They say, "Oh, such a big deal." Let me tell you, that statement got them to the bargaining table, and they haven't left. They haven't left the bargaining table. I predict they come back and they give us everything we want. And I told my people, I want everything. I don't want 90%. I don't want 95%. I told them, I want everything.
Well, and what they
have
want...
no cards, Maria.
Yep.
They have no cards. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone, totally gone. Mm-hmm. They have nothing. They have no ships. 158 ships are at the bottom of the sea. Good ones, new. The Soleimani, they had one called the Soleimani, was taken out by one of our Tiger Sharks, by one of our rapidly moving submarines. It's amazing. Our military is so good. Do you know?
Okay, so we get all of that. Death to America. I don't particularly like hearing anyone say death to America. Also, like they can say it. I don't think it's a reason to just start a war or anything. Could we put that in the negotiations, actually? Like, we're going to hold a red line that they can't say that anymore. Maybe that should be part of it. Let me get to one more statement here from Trump and then some of the newest developing stuff from this morning.
I think Iran is in very bad shape. I think they're very desperate. We had a meeting that lasted 21 hours. We understand the situation better than anybody, and Iran's in very bad shape. And just so you understand, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Will not have. There is no way that they're going to get. They still want it, and they made that clear the other night. Iran will not have a nuclear weapon.
So they didn't have a nuclear weapon, and even our intelligence and the IAEA said that they weren't even working towards a nuclear weapon. We know that they had some uranium enriched to 60%, likely as some kind of bargaining chip, but they weren't working towards one. And I happen to feel right now like they're more likely to work towards a nuclear weapon. I don't know. Maybe they're going to end up giving in on these negotiations. I'm not sure how this is all going to turn out. And the most confusing part about all of this to me is I don't trust any of the people that are telling me anything from this stuff. Like, I don't trust this administration to tell me how the negotiations are going, to tell me that we're going to meet with them again and possibly work towards a deal, or that they're giving in on this or that. And I don't trust the Iranians telling me how the negotiations are going either. Why would I trust them? And so we've seen clearly that both sides in the negotiation will lie to us and to each other at all times. I still find myself hoping that we're going to come to a peaceful end on this. I feel like that's what I have to hope, because I don't want this war to keep going. We're in it now. I don't have a time machine. I can't go back and do something to prevent it from happening. And we are in this now. And so I hope that there's some kind of negotiation that keeps the ceasefire in place and ends the war. And that's what we get. In a way, I hope that they're successful on some of these things. I have to hope that, because I hate the war so much. You know, some people don't feel that way, but that's how I feel on this. Now, Axios has a new report out this morning just before the markets opened, as is our usual arrangement. We get some of the news yesterday. We didn't come to any agreements on the talks. We start talking about the blockade of the Strait, and we see the market was down like 1% when trading opened last night. Oil was up like 8 or 9% at one point in time when the markets opened up last night. The futures markets opened up last night. And then, as is our usual arrangement, it's pretty good to try and get in on that as soon as you can, because Axios is going to come in, and Brock Ravid over at Axios is going to come in and give us some information that's going to boost the market. That's how it works. It's becoming a fairly successful trading strategy. So this one says the door is not closed. Mediators rush to revive U.S.-Iran talks. So we got Pakistani, Egyptian, and Turkish mediators will continue talks with the U.S. and Iran in the coming days in an effort to bridge the remaining gaps and reach a deal to end the war, according to a regional source and a U.S. official. All parties still believe a deal is possible. The mediators hope that narrowing the gaps could enable another round of negotiations before the ceasefire expires on April 21st. So what we're waiting right now to see is Iran going to hold their line on maybe they still want to develop nukes, or they still want to talk about developing nukes. They still want to enrich the uranium. Do they still want to try and control the Strait? Are they still going to hold a hard line on Israel ceasing the attacking of southern Lebanon, Hezbollah in southern Lebanon? Are they going to give in on some of that? Are we going to give in? And we're going to allow them to do some enrichment? Because right now they're saying no enrichment at all, which didn't used to be part of the deal at all. Many people calling that a poison pill in the negotiations. This is something that just started last year. We decided they couldn't have any enrichment whatsoever. It was they can't develop a nuke, and now it's they can't enrich at all. So are we going to hold firm on that whole thing? I don't know. Well, literally right now, we just have to sit and watch this stuff as it happens. We've got one mechanism, which is that we send representatives to Washington, D.C. to vote on these things on our behalf. We have our presidential election. We have elections for our representatives and our senators, which we shouldn't. We should repeal the 17th Amendment. We have those elections, and those people are supposed to vote on these things before they happen, or if they do happen, if it is started by a president, they're supposed to go and vote and not fund it or stop it from happening. In my opinion, that's probably why that was part of the imminent part of this war, which is that it's fairly clear that Democrats are going to take over Congress after the elections. There was no actual imminent threat that started this war. I think we all know that there was no imminent threat. The actual imminent part was that if Democrats took over Congress, just because they hate Trump, not because they hate war, disagree with war, they could have actually voted through some kind of war powers resolution to stop this. And so this year might have been the last time that they had this opportunity to do this without Congress voting to stop it. That's really what I think happened there. All right, so leading us into the blockade now. We're going to talk about the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. That way it's not Iran that's been closing the Strait of Hormuz. Remember, it was open on February 27th, and then it's been effectively closed since then. Really only ships that Iran has let through. Some of them have paid a toll, and just the ships that they have let through have been able to get through there. They've hit a couple ships. Okay, so people have been scared to go through there. They laid a bunch of mines, and so people have not been going through there. And now we wait to see if they can actually prevent ships from going through that strait, or if at some point along the road they've lost the ability to prevent that. Can they find a safe passageway around all the mines? A couple U.S. naval ships did go through the strait, from what I've read and from what the U.S. said. Iran denies it, but from what the U.S. has said, a couple of U.S. naval ships went through the strait on Saturday, I believe. And so they may have found a safe passageway around mines, and we're going to see if Iran is going to hit any ships that are going through there. So let's read what Trump had to say. He says, so there you have it. The meeting went well. Most points were agreed to, but the only point that really mattered, nuclear, was not. Effective immediately, the United States Navy, the finest in the world, will begin the process of blockading any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz. At some point, we will reach an all being allowed to go in, all being allowed to go out basis, but Iran has not allowed that to happen by merely saying, quote, there may be a mine out there somewhere that nobody knows about but them. This is world extortion. And leaders of countries, especially the United States of America, will never be extorted. I have also instructed our Navy to seek and interdict every vessel in international waters that has paid a toll to Iran. No one who pays an illegal toll will have safe passage on the high seas. We will also begin destroying the mines the Iranians laid in the straits. Any Iranian who fires at us or at peaceful vessels will be blown to hell. Iran knows better than anyone how to end this situation, which has already devastated their country. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their anti-aircraft and radar are useless except for when they shoot down our planes. Khomeini and most of their leaders are dead. I added the except for when they shoot down our planes part, if you're listening and not watching and reading along. Most of their leaders are dead, all because their nuclear ambition. The blockade will begin shortly. Other countries will be involved with this blockade. Iran will not be allowed to profit off this illegal act of extortion. They want money, and more importantly, they want nuclear additionally. And at an appropriate moment, we are fully locked and loaded, and our military will finish up the little that is left of Iran. President Donald J. Trump. So like I was saying before, what we're waiting to see is that the ballsy captain who decides to just go through the strait without paying Iran a toll, because in this post here, Trump is saying, even if you paid a toll and you're able to go through the strait, we're not letting you go. We're not going to let you go by paying them a toll. All right. That is important. If we look at, let me look at this map. Let me pull this map up. There we go. If you're watching on YouTube, which you should be, this is just a really crude representation of what this looks like. And so my first thought here, which to clarify on Trump's response, they have, CENTCOM did come out and clarify that it's just the ships that are going to and from Iranian ports. So all the other ships can come through. And so the next problem you run to on that is, well, the other ships that are coming through would only be coming through because Iran let them through. And from what Iran is saying, they're going to let them through because they've paid a toll to Iran. And so now if the U.S. is saying, well, if you paid a toll to Iran, you're also not coming through. Okay, so where does that leave us? Now those ships are saying, well, I can't pay the toll to Iran. The U.S. is still going to block me. So I'm going to have to try and go through without paying the toll to Iran. Or if I do pay the toll to Iran, I'm going to see if the U.S. is actually going to blow up my ship or if they're going to let me pass. Like what happens if we just keep our foot on the gas pedal, which is definitely how it works on one of those ships, and just keep going? Like, are they going to blow up my ship? Is that what the U.S. is going to do? So there are a lot of threats that are happening right here from both Iran and the U.S., and it's going to come up to some ballsy captains deciding to test either one of them and see what happens. Because you still have the threat, even if you don't pay the toll, even if there is a safe passage without the mines, of getting hit by an Iranian missile or drone. They've still got thousands of drones and missiles that they could fire at these ships. And so are they going to try that? Okay, cool. You know where the mines are. You told us what route to take, but are they going to hit me with a missile? Maybe we're going to see today how that's going to go. If you're looking at this map, you see the Iran choke point that the strait is at the narrowest part that people have not been passing through. And then what I was saying earlier is the only ships the U.S. would be blockading would be Iranian ships, okay, or ships that Iran let through. So we'll see what happens there. Now, Iranian ships or ships that left Iran ports, the better way to say it, ships from countries that bought from Iran, a lot of those could be China. I think China gets like 1 million barrels a day from Iran. And so a lot of people are speculating that we're inviting some kind of conflict with China here. I don't think that's likely. I think it's likely they do a lot of work in the background to try and get this over with. But we'll see. I don't know if someone's going to be testing out. Are these all bluffs? Are these real threats that we're going to follow through on? Someone's going to have to test them out. I'm not sure which one it is. Let me get to, here's a statement from Trump. Let's see
I
what he
would
says.
say it's holding well. Their military is destroyed. Their whole...
do we have to, if their military is destroyed, what are we talking about? You know? Why don't we just go in there? We just drive in there with some trucks, pick up the uranium, go get it. Why aren't all the ships just going through the strait? Why is there any need for any kind of blockade at all? Their military is destroyed. We've taken over the country. Everything's fine. Like, do we have to talk like this all the time?
Navy is underwater, you know that. 158 ships are gone. Their Navy's gone. Most of their mine droppers are gone. We have a lot of people, as you know, at 10 o'clock tomorrow, we have a blockade going into effect. That'll be 10 o'clock tomorrow. Other nations are working so that Iran will not be able to sell oil. And that will be very effective. But what we want to do is we want to, and again, we don't need it. What we notice and what we see and what I think is maybe my idea, maybe not, I don't know. But there are many boats heading toward our country to fill up with oil and then go and take it. So they're not going to go through the Hormuz Strait. And ultimately that'll be corrected. But in the meantime, they're using us. We have more oil because of drill, baby, drill. We have more oil than Russia and Saudi Arabia put together. So if you look at Russia and Saudi Arabia, two big ones, we have much more oil than they have put together. And what's happening is boats are coming over here, filling up. We don't have to go through the Hormuz.
So it's mostly true that we don't have to go through the strait. We do get oil from there. We get like 500,000, the equivalent, 500,000 barrels a day through there. And so that's a shortfall that we have right now. This is something I'm seeing a lot of people post about right now, this 5D chess move, this awesome move. First off, the blockade thing is just, it could be smart and it could work. Don't get me wrong. It's an option, okay? Iran does still make a lot of money by selling oil, and so you're going to cut them off. Presumably, the next thing they would make money off of would be the tolls. And you're saying you're not going to let ships through that have paid a toll to Iran. And so they could be cutting them off fully from that supply of money. I get it. It's also like I mean, you got to realize how this whole thing transpired. Like, this whole thing started with Trump making a massive bluff to like end the civilization, hit power plants and bridges and all of that. A just massive threat that he could not follow through on. And he knew he couldn't follow through on. Iran also knew that he couldn't follow through on that threat. At least that's what it looks like. They couldn't do it. And so they didn't buy it. They didn't budge. It didn't bring them to the table. The thing that brought them to the table last week was, I'll speculate a little bit here, the Trump administration working through Pakistan to try to post things that the Trump administration wrote through the Prime Minister of Pakistan, as we found through that accidental post leaving the draft for Pakistan's Prime Minister at the top of the first post. And luckily we can see the edit history, leaving that on there. So we know that they were working through them to try and work on this ceasefire. We then said that we accepted it and that we were going to work from Iran's proposed 10 points. At that point, Iran's like, okay, well, that's like everything that we wanted. So that's a good place for us to negotiate from for sure. And so it was Trump's way of buying himself out of this. Now, the biggest issue here has been we got to get the Strait of Hormuz open, or we don't, or they have to open it, or we don't care, or the other countries have to do it, or we're going to do it, or whatever day of the week it is. I'm not sure which one it is, honestly, and neither are you. So we have to get the Strait open, which was open before the war started. And they're keeping it closed by the fact that they've laid mines and they have actually hit some ships that tried to go through there. And so the transit of the Strait has been effectively blocked by Iran. And that doesn't look good for the administration, does it? It looks like they've got some negotiating cards. And so what we've decided to come in and do is say, you're not blocking the Strait. We're blocking the Strait. That's what we're doing, even though we're blocking at a later point where the ships that get to our ships would have to have already been let through by Iran, but whatever. And so it's a way of making it look like you're the one who is in control. And you might, in fact, be the one who has more control over this because you are blocking Iran from being able to sell that oil. Like that could be the case. I'm not even saying it's the wildest thing I've ever seen, but it's a clear tactic. It's like a narcissistic tactic kind of thing to all of a sudden, this person's doing that. Well, I'm going to make it look like I'm the one who's actually in control here for these negotiations. That's what I'm seeing from them. Let me get to a couple other clips here. Oh, the oil, by the way, all the ships come into the U.S. to get the oil. Let me get to some of that stuff. And this is being portrayed as like, well, this is the 5D chess move. We're actually the country that is blockading the Strait of Hormuz. We're in control and we're forcing everyone to come to us to get the oil, which is going to be great. Isn't this awesome for America? Now, the first immediate problem with that is the price of oil is still really high. There was a supply coming from either Iran or the other countries that were using the Strait. That supply has now been restricted. It's being taken off the market, and the demand is still the same or ever increasing for this oil, natural gas, all the other things that are at. We just say oil. That's just like the shorthand for what's coming through there. But there's a lot of other things that are coming through the Strait. So we just say oil. And so that supply is still taken off the market. So for us, like people who live regular, everyday lives and have to get gas every once in a while or pay for electricity or eat food that had to get delivered on a truck that was powered by diesel or that was grown using fertilizer that was also the precursors to those fertilizers coming from the Strait of Hormuz also, or from those countries that use the Strait. It's bad for us. Even if all these people are coming and buying from U.S. oil companies and say the U.S. gets to get some kind of, tax on it or whatever it is we're getting, it's still every day for us when we're getting things, our food, our gas, every single thing that touches any of those items, still more expensive for us. So cool, it might be great to see these graphics going around of all the ships that are coming to the U.S. for our resources, which, by the way, just a picture of all the ships coming to the U.S. doesn't tell you much unless you study pictures of ships going to and from the U.S. all the time, and you know that it's like way more than normal. It is more than normal. It has gone up, but that doesn't do anything really to help me right now. And also, we don't have enough oil to fill in the gap, because there's a gap of like 7 to 9 million barrels per day from what used to be coming out of the Strait. And from what we have, we can only supply like 1 million, 1.5 million barrels per day over what we were already supplying. So we're called all the time, like now, a net exporter, but it's a net exporter of petroleum products, all of them. We're actually a tiny net importer of oil itself. Like I said, we just use oil. I mean, you look at a picture of all these tankers, you're like, those are all oil tankers. And no, they're getting all kinds of stuff. We actually import a little bit of oil. Now, it's complicated because we import it because we're mostly importing like heavy crude oil that's used for diesel and jet fuel and stuff like that. We have tons of the light, sweet crude that's easier for making gasoline. The heavy crude can be cheaper, so it makes sense for us to get this from other countries. Also, just because of our technology and our resources, we have more of the light, the more light, sweet crude, and so we're importing a lot of the heavy, mainly from Canada and Mexico, places like that, and that's really through a lot of pipelines and stuff like that. Anyway, it's like a little complicated because on one hand, we talk about like total petroleum, we're a net exporter. When it talks about oil, we're actually a net importer of the oil. And we don't have enough extra barrels of oil in the near term to supply to all of the countries that were relying on stuff coming from the Strait to supply to them. Now, in the long term, we could increase the drilling, but then we'd also need to up the infrastructure a lot because of that. So, sorry, let me look in the group here. Let me see. One thing from earlier, I believe there were, Magoo was asking, I don't think any ships hit mines in the Strait. There were 1 or 2 ships that were hit, I believe, by drones in the Strait, or they could have been unrelated fires, but they were a couple that were used as a reason that ships like took them seriously and didn't go through. Or I could, if I'm totally wrong on that, someone can, give me an AI fact check right now or something like that, just to make sure. Pretty sure I read that, but it's been like a month ago now. That I believe it was like pretty soon after the war started. So, and then let me get through some of this other stuff. Sorry, I'm trying to actually address some questions. In the Fed Haters Club right now, join gml.com. Much easier to, when there's only one of us here, to pay attention to that stuff and talk at the same time. What about between U.S., Venezuela, and the new pipeline in Saudi that can handle 7 million barrels a day? That's obviously going to, and I think the Saudi pipeline, which people were saying, oh, this is destroyed. I think they were saying 700,000 barrels a day were taken offline. Apparently, that's already been fixed. That's what I was reading this morning. I believe that they're at that 7 million barrels a day. Like, that's all fine. That's all fine and dandy. What we would need to see here is the price of oil coming down, because that is still like there's supply that's not getting through. Even if it's supply that was going to China, like 1 million barrels a day, well, China, either they're going to get it from Iran somehow through a deal with us, or they're going to get it somewhere else. Like there's still supply that was on the market that's taken off the market, and we still need that supply. And sure, we should pump as much oil as we possibly can and sell it to as many people as we possibly can. As of right now, because of this, like by rule, or the blockade would not be necessary because there wouldn't be anything coming out of there. There still is a need for a lot of stuff coming out of there. We are taking supply off the market. But like I said, it's tough for me to say things like that because I like disagree with the war so much. But it's not the craziest strategy I've seen. Like it could work. If they're going to cut off Iran from all of their money, by work, is it going to bring them to the table, or is it going to push them to just restart and go ahead and end this whole thing? I don't know which one it's going to be. So those are my thoughts on the oil, the blockade, the negotiation. I can make predictions on stuff or whatever, but we just don't. I don't know. I wasn't in the room with those people. I'm getting press releases from what our people said and then from what their people have said, and I don't trust either one of them. Like, we're in the passenger seat here. We're not even in the passenger seat. That would convey some kind of respect for the person who's driving. I know we're getting like toted in a cattle trailer behind, and we don't have any, we don't have any say so in the matter. So we're going to see if some of this does bring Iran to the negotiating table. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes on this, and maybe we'll reserve the Pope and the Jesus thing for Dumb Bleep of the Week. I was not as mad about the Pope thing because I'm not Catholic, and I understand a lot of Catholic people being upset about what Trump said about the Pope or whatever, and some of the things that he said would seem to go like very much against like the whole reason that there is a Pope in the first place. But here, you guys, I'm sure have seen this, but Pope Leo is weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy. He talks about fear of the Trump administration, but doesn't mention the fear that the Catholic Church and all other Christian organizations had during COVID when they were arresting priests, ministers, and everybody else for holding church services, even when going outside. I did like when this was posted on X, it had a community note that says those first arrests of priests occurred during the Trump administration. Doesn't mean that the Trump administration was arresting priests or anything, but he was the president at the time that the COVID thing started. I feel like sort of let that slide quite a bit, but yeah, he was president at that time. I like his brother Louis much better than I like him because Louis is all MAGA. He gets it, and Leo doesn't. I don't want a pope who thinks it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I don't want a pope who thinks it's terrible that America attacked Venezuela, a country that was sending massive amounts of drugs into the United States, and even worse, emptying their prisons, including murderers, drug dealers, and killers into our country. And I don't want a pope who criticizes the president of the United States because I'm doing exactly what I was elected in a landslide to do, setting record low numbers in crime and creating the greatest stock market in history. Leo should be thankful because, as everyone knows, he was a shocking surprise. He wasn't on any list to be pope and was only put there by the church because he was an American. And they thought that would be the best way to deal with President Donald J. Trump. So some of these things I could see being super offensive to Catholics. I don't find it offensive because I don't care. Okay. So I can see it being super offensive to Catholics. And you're like, I don't want this pope. I don't want this pope. They only picked him because I was the president, all that. With like, it may or may not be. And this would come down to like whether or not you're Catholic, I guess. But it's a sort of a religious process in picking the pope. And these guys are supposed to be praying about this nonstop. It's not that like God picks the pope is what they believe. At least I don't think it is. Not a scholar on this, but they sure do pray about it a lot for guidance on who to pick. And this is the person that they come out and pick. And so implying to a bunch of people that this was like a purely political decision, well, it might have been. Well, once again, I'm not Catholic. It might have been. I can see how that could be offensive to a bunch of people. A bunch of people. So let me see. I want to get to the other thing. So on one hand, he's upsetting a lot of Catholics by doing this, which people have been criticizing popes now for a bit. Okay. Then we get this meme, this AI generated thing, which if you've been on social media, you've seen it. And it appears to depict President Trump as what I assumed was Jesus healing the sick. That is what it. This is what it looks like to me. Okay, so this is Jesus healing the sick. There's a soldier next to him, a nurse, another person praying. There's a guy back here in a hat, and there's an American flag behind him. There's some warplanes in the background, some sloppily generated warplanes in the background. The stuff at the top is the weirdest part. The weirdest part. Now, the most offensive part, some would say, is Trump depicted as Jesus healing the sick, which was posted shortly after the thing with the Pope. Okay. So he got a rise out of people posting about the Pope, decides to go in a little bit harder. Now, I was shocked. I got on Truth Social and I read through the comments, and I read through like the first 20 comments or so, and it was all people saying like, Mr. President, like, I support you 100%, but you need to take this down. Like, many people calling on him to delete this, which at that point, like, there's no point deleting it. It's out there, you know? And this was not purely an original creation by him. There was someone else who posted this, Nick Adams, a couple months ago. I do have questions about the changes that were made to it. And someone maybe in the group can explain to me. Now, of course, everyone is immediately saying that this is like a demon up here at the top. I like Magoo. I like that explanation. He's healing a Panacan. I get if that is like literally what he meant and was not trying to be like offensive, I'm Jesus, Like, I don't get offended by this stuff, but it's so weird because you would have to know that there are going to be a lot of people that are religious that are going to be offended by this. And we already know that many of the groups, many of the parts of the coalition that came together to support Trump have gone away. And maybe, like, I'll support Trump if he does something that I like and I agree with. I'm not like an old never Trump. I'll never support a single thing he ever does or anything like that. But yeah, they've gone away from being constant supporters of his. And so it's like some random further division with like some of the people that are still here. And even like strong supporters coming out in disagreement with this. I don't know which way to take it. The first way I took it was the super negative way, which is that this guy is offended that there are people this weekend worshiping someone other than him. And he's got to get out there and put out a meme of himself as Jesus healing someone. And so that was like the first way I took it. I don't think there's that much thought really going into this stuff. Honestly, I don't think there's a whole lot of thought going into this stuff at all. The next thing I came to was, a lot of people are talking about this right now and not so much about any other things they could be talking about. Maybe they're not talking about the war so much today. Maybe they're not talking so much about gas prices today or oil or the market or whatever today. They're just arguing over some clearly offensive to a lot of people, things that Trump posted on his Truth Social, like the old days, like the good old days. We're not talking about all this other crazy stuff that's going on. Trump posted something offensive. Stop being a snowflake, or I disagree with it, but I'm still, it's like, let's all fight about this over here while some of these other really, really big, important issues are going on. And so that's really what I'm landing on today. Now, what people are pointing out a lot, and I get why they're pointing it out. The original AI meme over here is just some soldiers up in the clouds, maybe like some soldier angels up there. I don't know what's going on. It's an AI meme. It doesn't make any sense, On the right side, it's like the exact same meme, but the soldiers are changed slightly, like just a little bit. You can see some slight changes to all of them, but the one in the middle, it doesn't look like particularly inviting or like heavenly. I could see people saying it looks a little bit more malevolent or evil in some way or demonic. But it's, once again, here's something we can talk about. Who's controlling Trump and who's posting this, and is Trump actually the Antichrist and all that kind of stuff. And I tend to lean on there's a potential this is just an AI mishap because AI does some stupid stuff, like that happens. And so I'm fine with that. But this is something people are going to talk about for a couple days while all of these negotiations are going on and while we're blockading the thing that we, threatened to blow up all the infrastructure of the country that was blocking it last week. So that's what's going on right now. Sorry, that's kind of all over the place. I had a busy weekend, okay? I was at the convention. I hosted a gubernatorial debate. I had a busy weekend. I wasn't able to go through and research every single thing. Get over it, okay? Start your own show. No, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Charlie, get that root canal. Hopefully everything goes okay. I don't know what the recovery time from a root canal is. Never had one before. So pretty quick, I assume. So maybe he'll be back for the next show. Let's see. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. What did I miss? What did I not miss? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Do all those things. Tell a friend, a family member, and the children to listen to Good Morning Liberty every single day of the week when we want to. If you do every single one of those things, and I mean every single gosh darn one of them, we'll be back here again tomorrow. Until then, have a good day and a Good Morning Liberty.